Hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of Voice the SASHA PoShcast, your go to podcast for all things posh. This is your host, Shweta Bhatt, and I hope you all are staying safe and healthy in these times. The COVID 19 pandemic and the lockdown has affected many parts of our lives, and PoSH is not exempt from this fact. We explore this very same topic in this episode with a brief session facilitated by advocate, PoSH consultant, trainer, and Team Sasha member Yamuna Chengappa, followed by snippets of a very lively Q&A session with members of Team Sasha. Without further ado, let's begin.
So today we're going to look at two aspects. One is uh, during lockdown, how do you do inquiries? And the other is what about the policy? What about the PoSH policy? And then we will touch on some aspects of the kind of issues we're facing because of the whole lockdown and how, because of us not being able to have in-room inquiry or in-room session, how everything has to be in the virtual space, so how that is also kind of impacting the whole nature of our work. So recently, a client asked me, you know, now that we are working out of our homes, will any sexual misconduct still come under the PoSH Act? Or is it something else? Is it going to be just some kind of harassment and not under PoSH per se? Now, to look into this, we need to look at two different definitions. The first one is Section 2A of the SASHA Act, which talks about who is an aggrieved woman. Now, if you look at the definition, it says an aggrieved woman means in relation to a workplace, a woman of any age, whether employed or not, who alleges to have been subjected to any act of sexual harassment by the respondent. Now, I've underlined in relation to a workplace because that is what the main concern right now is, because of the whole lockdown and working from home, using the virtual space as your workplace. Let's look at the next definition. The next definition is what is workplace. So Section 2O of the Act defines workplace to include offices of the employer as well as premises of other third parties, vendors and associates, any kind of places visited by the employees arising out of or during the course of employment, undertaking any journey, so any transportation that is provided by the employer, basically any place or event that is controlled or funded by the employer becomes a workplace. But if you look at the COVID scenario, nobody is going anywhere. There's no transportation, there is no conference, there is no workplace per se. You're not going to any office. So let's look at the two definitions and how it has been defined to understand better. Now, if you look back, it says aggrieved woman means, and workplace has been defined as to include, right? When they use the word means and includes, we have to understand that to understand how this law is pertaining to the COVID scenario. Now, the use of the word means, it indicates that the definition is a hard and fast definition, um, and it has no other meaning assigned to it. Uh, it is as the expression has been laid out in the definition. It has nothing else to do with it. Aggrieved woman is aggrieved woman within that scope. But when the word includes is added to a definition, it broadens the whole scope. It enlarges the meaning of the expression defined so as to comprehend not only such things as they signify according to their natural import, uh, but also those things which the clause declares that they shall include. So, section 2O, if you look at it, is inclusive. It is the use of the word includes means any other workplace not mentioned in the act, and that includes your online platforms. That includes your work, your home, because you're working from home. The definition of the term aggrieved woman uses the word in relation to the workplace, which means that the misconduct need not take place at the workplace. but should have some connection with the workplace. And so working from home comes under that umbrella. So that takes care of whether, during the COVID time, lockdown, we're sitting at home, we are just interacting over email and PC, maybe even WhatsApp. So does it come under the ambit of PoSH Act or not? Now, the next thing that we're going to look at is what happened because of Corona. During this COVID time, what are the different scenarios that we're facing? What are the issues that we are possibly going to face with respect to with respect to PoSH? So you have work from home, you have no face-to-face interaction, that is direct face-to-face, physical face-to-face interaction. You have a lot of call drops, time lapse due to technical issues, syncing time of all IC members, um, breakdown of the technical platform. So I was sitting through another session, to another webinar, which I think all of us are doing an overdose of webinars, but then we have to do something, right? So, anyways, I was sitting through that. It was a 5-day webinar, and by the third day, most probably, I think it was the third day, there was a big glitch. And on the fourth day, they didn't have that platform to conduct the rest of the webinar, and they quickly had to recalibrate whatever they had to do. I have no idea how they did it, but I'm not technically, a sound person. But suddenly we had to log into YouTube and start looking at the sessions, thereafter. So that is something that we are all going to face and all will have to look at and work with. Awareness sessions. I think a lot of us have anyways been doing some sessions online. It's just that we're going to now kind of implement it more often in more multiples. So IC can conduct online awareness sessions via webinars or VC, and some of us have used Mentimeter, which is also a very good option. It can share posters and one-page quick reckoners, which is what I've been doing with my clients. And I've told them, please circulate it among the employees on a regular basis. We have plenty of posters, so we can share one maybe every week or every 15 days, 20 days, however they want to kind of pace it. I've also suggested that employers can have online quizzes and poster making activities related to PoSH. So that kind of keeps the ball rolling. And we recommended team huddles to have a healthy, atmosphere in the office with respect to PoSH. Now, the same 10-minute team huddles can be done online too. So, awareness sessions, keeping the momentum of PoSH in the office can be done purely through, available hangouts and webinars. Let me give you this case that two cases rather that we recently had. One was a slightly, major complaint. This was to do with a rape case, at least a rape allegation, where this man had allegedly, and she alleged that the complainant alleged that he had raped her at her home, but all part of work related. And she had not filed a complaint. We started the inquiry, and this was just before the lockdown. So we just started the inquiry. We had spoken to the complainant, we had spoken to the respondent, we'd spoken to one of the witnesses that the complainant had gotten, and then the respondent stopped coming to work. Meanwhile, Corona happened. There was quite a bit of time lag, maybe not quite a bit, maybe like a week's time lag because of the whole Corona complications. And then we went into lockdown. And the only way we could contact the respondent was by email. Obviously, we couldn't send couriers. And meanwhile, we had started asking him to come to office. He had not. We had sent him 2 notices saying we're going to consider you as absconding. He had not replied. His house was locked supposedly because we'd sent another employee. And she wanted to file an FIR, but then lockdown happened, and so she was at home. She couldn't go to the police station, file an FIR. She had kind of delayed it because she wasn't sure whether she wants to or not, and that's her prerogative. But we eventually reached a point where the respondent was terminated because he was absconding. He was terminated, and we needed to let the complainant know that he's been terminated, but she didn't have access to emails. She doesn't have an email, so she didn't have access to emails. On the phone, I mean, you can just tell her that much. And we wanted her to sign the report, uh, and we couldn't send it via courier. So these are some of the things that we could possibly, these issues are something that we cannot, it's not in our control because of the corona lockdown. But eventually, what the company did manage to do was take relevant permissions and send someone to her home and get her signature on that closure report, saying that, uh, we cannot take this forward, but if she wants to go ahead and file an FIR, we will support her in that. The other case that we had was, it's an ongoing case, and we wanted to check with some witnesses. When we tried to contact them, they said that they cannot. We wanted to see their facial expression when we were doing the inquiry, because we knew that that will give us some indications. But they said that their laptops have been disabled, and they cannot do VCs. So we were already there, and we'd already checked some, we'd already spoken to the complainant, the respondent, another witness. But these two witnesses' laptops were disabled because of whatever, they were in whatever position in the company. And then there was this mad run, online run, where the lady who was coordinating the whole thing, she called him up on his phone, and then he was at home, so there was a lot of sounds, babies and this and that, and he was in some remote part of uh, wherever, so the signal was bad, so he had to go onto the terrace. And when he went onto the terrace, every 10 minutes there was this aeroplane flying overhead. It was a little hilarious, but also very frustrating for us, because there was a lot of hello, hello, we can't hear you, hello, hello, can you move to this side, can you move to that side? So yeah, so these are some of the issues that we will face, but yeah, work must go on. Now, what do you consider when you look at conducting an inquiry? What are the considerations that we should have in mind? So let's look at documentation. What do? You initially have to capture in your documentation with all the signatures, all the parties should sign off that this whole inquiry is going to be via VC and emails, and via any of these platforms. So all the parties must give their consent to appear virtually, because it is, not everybody has access to internet and all these facilities. We will have to give them adequate notice of hearing. um, there's a fair possibility that this person is not sitting by himself or herself, so confidentiality is a big question. And we cannot monitor it. We're sitting here, they're sitting there, and someone can just beside them and help them replying to our questions. So we need to take a sign off on that. We need to also let them know that we need to educate them about the confidentiality clauses that we have. But we can do only that much, and we're hoping that if they sign off, then that should be a deterrent. Uh, there's a fair chance that we will miss timelines because of such delays, and that delay is usually condoned because of the whole COVID you know, scenario. So yeah, so this is some of the things that we have managed to cover, because it's just a 10-minute session. What the last thing that we'd like to talk about is, recently another client asked if they need to amend their PoSH policy as their employees are working from home. Now, my question at that point was, is there a need to amend the company's PoSH policy? I looked at the policy, brought it at par with what we have generally been doing. But today, I do think that there is a need to include these points into their PoSH policy, where the employees know that even if they're sitting at home and working, even if they're using WhatsApp, if it is work related, if it is to do with their colleagues, in all probability, it will come within the purview of the PoSH Act. that's about it for today. And I hope you have a lot of questions coming my way. Thank you so much, people. Thank you for listening.
Okay. Thank you very much, Yamuna, for that very enlightening presentation. And these are very pertinent points that you have raised. And our chat has blown up with questions. I don't know if you could see that. So let me
I
just
shall see it.
let's go through. So the first question is work from home always considered the workplace according to the law, I'm assuming, or is this a new scenario only because of the lockdown? What do you think?
No, I think I don't think it's see there is it's not new. This whole concept of work from home is not a new concept just because of lockdown, right? We've had people working from home earlier also. Um, so no, it's not a new concept. But just that I think people are looking at it in a new way because the whole office is sitting at home and working now.
Okay, because more and more people are doing this.
Yes.
So instead of being a minority sort of a phenomena, it's gone to the norm in many cases. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So coming to inquiries, conducting inquiries online is something quite new to even, all of us as well.
Yes.
I mean, doing the entire inquiry online, is something that a lot of or we are getting to do now. If we are doing inquiries online via video conference, Jessamine asked this question: can we take a screen recording instead of taking up minutes of the meeting? So we record the meeting as minutes instead of
Yeah.
actually capturing it in document.
First thing is we'll need to take permission, consent from all the parties involved to be
Mhm.
doing that, and they need to, consent for the same, give the consent for the same, and then you can record. There's no stopping that. But at the end of the day, you will still have to take down word to word what you recorded,
Hmm.
right? Uh, and yeah, that is possible. And I think
Okay.
some people, some of the inquiries, we have been doing that with everyone's permission and consent in place.
But then we'll have to transcribe it verbatim
Absolutely,
on.
yes.
Okay. So the basic question is, does the law allow online inquiries in the first place?
I don't think the law negates it, right? The law, I don't think the law says it cannot be online. If someone has another opinion, please jump in.
Can I just,
So
Yes, please.
yeah,
yeah,
Soumya actually, Soumya, just to preface, I have in the list of questions and opinions, Soumya has some really pertinent perspectives on the matter, which also sort of come under this point of online inquiries, and perhaps Soumya can elaborate on that as well.
yeah. I also see that there are certain questions which are, in fact, connected to this. There are issues of confidentiality, then the issues of how do we keep witness or the party anonymity into consideration. How do we take that into consideration, or do we record this? And if we record this, how do we, whether we share this with parties or not? And these kind of questions are there. I just feel that this situation should be consciously taken up as or considered as an exception to general, the best practice that should be followed, especially in inquiries, because I feel the best practice would be to sit face to face and talk to parties or to the witnesses. I consider, though, like how Yamuna mentions, there's nothing to negate an online inquiry in the law. There's nothing as such that says online inquiries should not be done or it should be only a face-to-face inquiry. However, I feel that this should be taken up as an exception, and when the lockdown is over, it should not be taken as if that, oh, we did this during the lockdown period, so why don't we continue online inquiries?
Yamuna, do you have anything to say in closing? as we close out this session?
Uh, I think I just hope the whole lockdown issue is sorted out and we kind of get back to normal life. But I do foresee a lot of uh, changes at the workplace and in the posh dimension.
I had
Yes,
read a
Shweta.
very interesting article the other day about how all over the world people are looking at working from home in a different manner, in different capacities, of course, because suddenly organizations realize that a lot of things can be done in this manner. So I
Can be
don't know
done,
how
yes.
that would, yeah, I don't know how that would really affect us at the other side of this lockdown. But whatever it is, I do hope this ends soon, and
Yeah.
so that we can go back to
And then we get back to a
actually
world,
interacting.
however changed it is, but we get back to a
Safer world. Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, Yamuna, for taking us through this and enlightening us and
Thank
causing
you.
so much lively engaging discussion in the chat and in the meeting room. And thank you, Team Sasha, for uh, coming to us with your questions and with your perspectives.
And that was our episode, dear listeners. What was your biggest learning? What questions do you have about how the PoSH Act and inquiry process are to be adhered to during such times? Write to us at voice@sashaindia.com with your queries, comments, and ideas for topics you want discussed in future episodes. With this note, I take your leave. Until we meet again next month, stay safe and remember, prevention and protection leads to progress.